Welcome, coaches. We are back with yet another masterclass, and our guest for today, you're already seeing him on screen here. Reid from Australia, former coach to Australia, former assistant coach to the Netherlands, former coach to India, and tonight coaching his daughter. I heard that.
Yes,
so
indeed.
yeah. I guess that's the biggest challenge of them all.
As we all know, coaching our own kids is the biggest challenge. The rest is easy.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, guys. As usual, let us know that you are here through the comments. Tell us where you are from, so that we have an idea for who is in the room with us here. And again, so yeah, lovely to see you, Christina from Argentina. Lovely to see you again, Bappa from India. We've got who else have we got? We've got Nico from Belgium. We've got Helen Lejeune from The Hague. Sam Bartholomew. So we're happy to see all of you already in the room and many, many more. Let's make this an interactive session again. So the idea is obviously Graham's going to start with a bit of his presentation and his sharing of the insights about the teams that we're going to discuss today. But interrupt with questions, bring on your questions. I will interrupt Graham during his presentation if needed, or we keep some questions to the end for our Q&A. But let's make it an interactive session again. So the idea of this series, we had the previous one last week with Fede Tanuscio. We are going to do three masterclasses in a row about SWOT analysis for the teams playing the Pro League. And I've asked Graham to focus his attention on Germany, on who else did I have? New Zealand and Spain.
Fine.
That was the three countries for today. Graham, let's take it away. Let's have some fun here.
All right. Okay. Sharing my screen.
Yep, we're seeing that.
Okay. Uh, Look, I wanted to perhaps start by just talking about one of the things I think with swatting, or and I thought Fede did a really good job last week of explaining what SWOT is. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yeah.
And other coaches call it scouting, whatever you want to call it. I think one of the things that you need, well, there's a few things that you need to be aware of when we are scouting. And that is, and you work that out quite quickly, of course. But and I'm stating the obvious, but teams play differently against you, and you can scout and go, well, they're doing back five, they're doing back three, and whatever. But they may not necessarily do that against you tomorrow, because you play differently to what the teams that you've been scouting. Now, again, I'm probably telling a lot of people to suck eggs here, because you will know that, but you can get a little bit carried away and worried, if you like, sometimes about the things that teams do, but they do play differently against you. And this comes from experience. Try and have video examples of the last time you played each other. I think that's a really important one. Sometimes that's not available, of course, and especially early on in a tournament. That may not be available, or early on in a season that may not be available. So try and make sure you've got video examples of the last time. They may have a new coach. That's always an issue, or can be an issue. So we do a lot of scouting. We do a lot of thinking how they're going to play, and they come out with and they've had a new coach since you've last looked at their videos. They must, for example, internationally, they may have just come off a training block. That's a really important one, where they may have had a period of time to actually work on some new stuff, and so you may start to get some new tactics come out which you haven't seen before from this particular team, for example. Things that else can happen: team changes from retirements, and a good example is probably Germany at the moment. They've had a couple of retirements. Perhaps people not available because they have to study. In the club system, we have transfers in between seasons, junior teams moving into seniors, that type of thing. So just be aware of that. Another example is when you do play a team for the first time during a tournament, then you are only going to have video from and stuff to look at from previously, and that's when you can perhaps make some wrong assumptions. And of course, tomorrow they can come out and play completely differently. We've prepared for A, B, C, and D, and they come out with E, F, G, and H, and we're sort of going okay. But just be aware that can happen, and Murphy's Law often says that it does. Each team, though, will probably have an underlying way that they have played historically, and sometimes that can come from years of, when you're talking about internationals, there are teams like Germany that have a huge history in the sport, and that will come out, and especially under pressure, and that will be their go-to. So, some clubs have had long periods of the same coach, and so that they will start to have a way of play that is quite significant, to them. And then the other thing is, look, I think as coaches, sometimes we get a bit too technical. We overanalyze. We're thinking they're doing that, and I've had it a number of times where we've come off the pitch and say, "Oh, I love the way you did this, and you moved this, and you did that." And I said, "Well, the game just moved that way, and we talk to our players, but we don't have automatic controls. We don't have joysticks, and so a lot of the times we think that they are doing something, and in fact it's just a part of the game, and that's what happens. So don't get too technical. Players have to play and keep it simple, stupid, I think." Okay, just a few theories before we get going. Just remember, and I've seen this a lot, especially with younger coaches. We know we're supposed to do a SWOT, or we're supposed to do scouting, and for every strength you point out about the opposition, don't forget that you must have an antidote to that, and so the players must know that, and whether you come up with that during this particular session, whether you do it beforehand, whether you've worked on it in the last while during trainings, but. And likewise, for every opportunity that you reveal, then you need to have a strategy for that. A team that excels in particular aspect is often susceptible to having that aspect used against them. In other words, I'm a big believer that if someone, for example, likes to crowd the ball and likes to move the ball city to country, in other words, from ball side to help side very well, and they do that well, it means that it will probably work against them as well. In other words, for example, if a team is really good at pressing, then probably pressing will work against them, for example. And it's just an experience that I've had, and you will find examples, I'm sure, after you start looking for them. For me personally, I rather than changing tactics each game, I prefer developing a way of play. So whenever I have enough time with a team, then I like to develop a way that we play, and that ends up meaning that we're getting your team comfortable with scenarios, and that means, for example, so it doesn't matter whether you're playing Germany or Spain or whatever, they will all have their own form of a back three, for example. So, okay, when they have a back three, what do we do? And it's about building that knowledge within your players, so that if as I said in my previous thing before, you come out tomorrow, and tomorrow everything's gone out the window. We've done all this scouting, but in fact something's changed, and they no longer play the back three; they play a back four. That's fine. They play back four. We do X. We do Y. Whatever it is that you decide as a group, and I think that's a really important one. I think sometimes also with coaches, we like to think tactically and okay, we'll do this against them, but it's very hard for players to play differently each week, depending on who the opposition is, and I suppose I'm always coming from Australia. We always like to think we it's about us, and it's about the way that we play, mainly because we can control that. I think that's right. Okay, so coaches and players, what to look for when you're scouting. Now, we're scouting, and I've done it always done it with my teams, is that I believe that the players, and I think I saw Helen's name there. Helen, I'm sure you'll be doing that with your young Dutch players, they will be scouting for the team, and this is just gives us some of the things that I like to give our players and our assistant coaches. What are we looking for when they are scouting? Things to watch for without the ball. What sort of pressing do you see? Are they zone, man to man? Did they have a free defender? Maybe they had two free defenders. And who were they? What sort of player are they? Ball start 4 and ball start 5 defensively. In other words, when we fall all the way back to the 25 and they've got a long corner, how many do they have on the mark? Man on man in the circle. How does that work? Did they get pressure out on the ball, or are they happy to sit back and let you pass to wherever you wish to? Tackling, marking, are they good at it? They're not too good at marking, therefore we can do something differently. If they're good tacklers, then you try and avoid the contests. Best players without the ball. Keepers, what are their keepers like? What's their penalty corner defence like? So that was without the ball. This is now with the ball. How do they outlet? They outlet from back 4-2-2 or a 3-2, examples, etc., etc. Do they take quick free hits? Do they have quick ball movement? Do they move the ball quickly, or are they happy just to move it around slowly and send you to sleep? Do they have patience? Are they one-sided? Some teams historically are right-sided. They like to go down your reverse, so they play on the right. Ball start 4 and 5, that's long corners and around the circle's edge. What are they trying to do? The opposition keeper and PCA opportunities. Best players with the ball. So that's the sort of, they're the things that we're talking about. So for me, whenever I do one, again, I normally take an hour. So trying to get through this in each of these teams in 10 minutes is going to be difficult, Ernst, but we'll see how we go.
Love the challenge. Love the challenge.
Exactly. How they press against ball start 1, ball start 4 and 5. So ball start 1 is back in our own zone, and then ball start 4 and 5 is at long corners again. How they outlet, how they attack, how they defend, who are their best players, what are their goalkeepers like, what do they do, and PCA, PCD. They're the sort of simple areas that I like to try and keep when I'm doing it. All right, let's move to Germany. I know we had some problems earlier, Ernst, regarding the videos that I've got, but let's see how we go. German, historically, there's a great book called Great by Choice, and in that he talks about a smack recipe, and a smack recipe is a recipe that companies have used historically to try and keep with what they know: specific, methodic, and consistent. Specific, methodic, and consistent recipe. And I put Germany in that bracket. They've played at the highest level for a number of years. They've won 4 gold medals. They've won 3 World Cup medals. They have a recipe that works for them. They don't change too much, 10, 15%, with a new coach coming in, but they keep it pretty, and it works very well for them. They got the world's best basics under pressure, I think. We can argue about that, but they normally have 2 contacts. With the ball, they try and stretch you and make the field as big as they can. Right half sits a little higher, left half a little deeper. Now, this is, of course, we're talking about, historical type stuff, not necessarily what they're going to do tomorrow. Historically, they were very much on man-to-man marking. These days, they're much more zonal, as I think Fede also mentioned last week, because of Belgium in the last 7 or 8 years or 10 years, whatever it's been, have really brought zonal back into play a lot more, and so teams are now doing that a lot more. They have great indoor skills, as we know, and that's I think that plays a major part in what they do. We had Paul Lissick with our Australian group back in 2010, around that sort of era, and it was great just learning some stuff from him and listening to him and talking about the way Germans play, and their right-sided attack and left foot, but the other part was that they will go route one if they're given space, and they will attack you and they will hurt you, and I think that's a really, really important point. Whenever you play Germany, you want to protect the middle. and I think that's an important one. From a point of view of the players to watch, you can I can put up another 4 screens here of players that they have, but with Grambush, with Rua, I don't think Rua's going to be playing. I think he's out with study. But you've got Swicker, who's still there. He's played 288 internationals. He's a great player. You've got Stadler, who's coming up as a new keeper. Of course, you've got Gonzo, who's probably arguably the world's best flicker. Milk Cow is playing well, Muller. And then you've got the 3 strikers down the right-hand side there who pretty much, I think any coach in the world would love to have them in your strike line. And, I think we saw Wellen finally, make his mark on the world game during the World Cup. So that was beautiful to watch, to be honest. He's, but all 3, I think, are outstanding players. This is just the list of players that they have, and they've pretty much got most of the players from the World Cup. Trumpet is retired, I think. As I said, Wellen, Stabe, and Hertzbrook are all available, and they're of course world-class strikers. Be prepared for a mixture of zone and man-to-man. They sort of tended to play more zone in the last outing in India against Australia and against India, but that may change. As I said, they've got at the moment Pelliat's back in form again. He's flicking well most of the World Cup. Right. Let's go and see if I can find where
We're looking for the videos now, right, people? So we had to pre-show a little bit of difficulties showing the video screen from Graham, so he had to export all of his videos, and we're hoping that we can get them on screen right now.
Okay, so I think I probably need to stop sharing and then share. I'm sharing the QuickTime player, and it's not looking flash at the moment. I shall try. Is that coming through?
It's not coming through at the moment. No.
Okay.
And if you share entire screen?
Yeah, I shall try that. So now I've shared the entire screen, and that's also not coming through?
No, it's not coming through.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, probably I can just talk to the videos and see if I can give you some ideas here. We're with Germany at the moment with ball. They have a back 4 and pretty standard sort of back 4. Sometimes their right half goes up the pitch, so it looks a little bit sort of like that. And then they have 2 midfielders here as 2 contacts. One will end up being closer than the other depending on which side the ball is on, and then their other midfielder will sit out wide, and then they'll have 2.
There we go. That's now it's in the picture. Perfect.
There you go. Sorry about that. How are we looking there? Let's get that up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 4, 2, 1 of the midfielders, and again, it's normally out on the left, and then the 3 there. Okay, so that's pretty much that video was about. See if we can move on to the next one.
Yeah, sorry people. So as you can see, we can hear the videos, but for some reason technically they're not showing up. So
okay.
We'll go with the board there. Always
intractable.
Yeah.
No, old school, huh?
Old school. There we go.
in their attacking zone, they tend to use a back five. How's my microphone? How's my microphone? All right.
Yeah, your microphone's perfect. That's okay.
And yeah.
There we go. Perfect.
So a back five for me looks probably a bit like that. That's how Germany like to do it. And what I like about this, there's a few things, a couple of reasons why they do it. One is for counter control, but also it means that it can free this space up in the circle so that they have room to move and manipulate players and what have you. One of the things that they do like to do is to move the ball here, then to there, and then they come back here for a redirection into the circle, for example. That's a normal go-to type play. With them stretching all of their halfbacks up here, then they also like to throw some overheads both sides as from the middle. But what I like about the back five is that it still gives you the these, I call them delivery positions, but it gives you these delivery positions to be getting the balls into these areas, which they do nicely. And then that means that they are manipulating in here to get space so that they can be receiving these balls around the top of the circle. So I think Germany did that very well. I think that's what that's why they tend to move towards that form of play. Makes sense.
Making sense. Do they use the high ball as much as we've seen from other teams as well? The high ball towards the back line?
They can if it's there, and I think that's the other part is that if you allow them, they will use it, and it's the same as what I said about Route 1. Coming straight down the middle. There's unfortunately there's a great clip here about showing exactly that Rua gets clear in the front of the pitch, and they just go boom straight through the middle, straight to him. Again, mainly because Australia let him.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I wanted to show you was that when teams full press, and of course those of you who know me know that that's my mode of play is to full press, and the main reason is because it's hard to get out of a press, and the only way that you can get out of a full press is having really good skills, and you need to execute them. And I think if you were to look up the dictionary for as in good skills and know when to use them and how to get out of a press, then I think Germany would be the team that does that. And I think that's and one of the clips I had is that and again, Australia is a very good pressing team. So the ball comes in here, and the Germans got it, and then he's looking to pass back out again, and he mispasses it, and so it goes quite slowly. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Sorry,
we can see that. We can see that.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah. So the ball comes out. Oh, sorry, comes this way quite slowly, and then Australia press. Yeah, and they press quite heavily. But Germany very very calmly come out here, pass into Svicker, who has pre-scanned and already putting the left half away, who's now come up here, and it could have all gone very badly, especially that's why Australia press. So I think they are a very difficult team to press. It's why against them most teams tend not to. But if my theory is right about that, then they should be also. Because what tends to happen in the club games, you get used to not being pressed, and so you get a little bit blasé. And I think that's sometimes what you find with them. They're very good, but they're also very cool, and they and sometimes I think you can press them anyway. All right, how are we looking time wise? Should we move on to Spain? Let's go and have a look.
Let's move to Spain. Good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Spain historically, they're very good passers of the ball, as Germany are as well. Of course, I think Germany are probably the best passers. They play indoor. Indoor is a passing game. So, but
Mm-hmm.
but I think what Spain is very good at is they've got very good skills, and the basics are good. They're tackling. Uh, a simple example of that. I was coaching a, a, a school team here, 15 years ago, and a Spanish kid came into the school, and he'd only ever played on turf, and we were still training and playing on grass at that point, and he's come in and he did not miss one trap the whole time. Now he'd never played on grass, but his techniques and whatever was so good, and I think that's what you see from the Spanish. Historically, they have very good basics. I remember in Barcelona Olympics, asking for another ball because they just kept moving the ball around and using it, and we couldn't even get it off them. They're very good at that. They love the give and go very tightly sometimes, which is hard to defend. What do I mean by that? Okay, can you? Do you need me to do it, or can you
Yep,
bring
yep.
my?
No, you just bring it on, and I will show it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So yeah. So look, there are lots of teams who are very good at give and go, and of course the Dutch, they own it. They, but I think other teams like Spain and like India, they also do it very well. What I like about Spain doing it is that they do it quite tightly, and by that I mean when they give the ball here, they run very close to the player to get it back again, which means that the defender can't get in between the ball and the player, and therefore gets free. So they do that quite well with not only one player but also two or three players, and so I think that's historically has been a real thing with them, and especially in the days of Paul Mutt and Santi Frazier and whatever, they used to do that very well. Um, that's hard to defend, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they used to they were one of the, when Maurits Hendricks, the Dutchman, was there. They used to play a lot of inverted centre forward press and invite you into their trap and do the Malachi crunch, we used to call it. And I think that they were the ones who probably historically started it with.
Can you explain what the Malachi crunch is? I have no idea.
The Malachi crunch is actually from Happy Days, I think, back in the old days where Fonzie got Malachi crunched by the Malachi brothers, but but
Yep.
the concept but the concept it was pretty much invite them in here, and then they would be pressed. Can you see that there?
Yes, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect, perfect.
Yeah, then hit from all sides, and that's when it's in the middle. I mean, the new zone that most teams are applying these days, which is called the Belgium zone, because it's pretty much
Hmm.
what the Belgians do, um, is a little more that they invite it into here, and then they press from there, and from there. So
Yes.
it's a similar principle. It's just that's the way the Spanish used to do it back, I think, around the '96 timing. So that's a long time ago, Ernst, as you know.
Back in the days from Fonzie and Happy Days.
Exactly. That's the sad part. Helen, I can see you grinning there, I'm sure.
Yes.
Um, down to the baseline and hard ball in is also something that they used to do quite regularly. Lots of interchanging midfield with striker with midfield, in to out, out to in. Before that became the norm, they were also very good at that. Historically, one of the things I think with Spain is that they lacked a bit of consistency. Sometimes they were very, very good, and they're Olympic silver medalists, bronze medalists, and then other times they lacked a bit of interest. And I think that's perhaps what you're seeing now with this new group of young players, is that their consistency is now starting to get better, and I think that's what you're finding. I think that's what Max is bringing to the group. Um, So what are they currently doing? They've almost, and I don't want to say taken over from Argentina, but they certainly have a lot of the kids playing. Have got great 3D skills, they're really pressing the boundaries of the rules. They're bringing up quite high, but then bring it back onto your feet to get to win corners and that type of thing. It's quite interesting. And look, I'm not sure if that's coming from their junior group or what, but yeah, it's definitely worth watching. Of course, they still have that give and go, and they use that. They have a speed through the midfield, and players like Gonzalez and whatever, they're beautiful to watch. They're very, very clever. They're dangerous when they go city to country. City to country is an Australian term. I think it's actually an AFL, a football term, where it just means going from the ball side to the help side. It's just another way of coining the same phrase.
Mm-hmm.
The city being crowded, the country being less crowded. I think that's the simple principle. And as I said, watch your feet in the circle, because they love to look for PCs, and their hands are very quick. And now with their 3D skills up around the highest level, then they're very, very, very tough.
Yeah.
Right, they play a zone.
Mm-hmm.
Standard, pretty much a standard zone, mainly. Again, I had sorry, I had video. I'm not a very good drawer, which you may have picked up.
It works. It works, Rame. It works very well this way.
Um, you did say that before I started about make sure you have the board ready. Now I
There
know
we
why.
go.
Yeah, so pretty sort of standard zone, and that can be compressed down to 65, 50. They'd have all versions of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm doing here with the four making the
Yeah, a little bit
diamond.
higher. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty standard. They aren't. That was actually one of the clips that I wanted to show you regarding the Germans. The Germans actually are quite narrow with their press. And when you find that a press is narrow, they're trying to make you, of course, go on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of the ways that you can spread it out a bit, for example, is putting one of your halfbacks up the line a little further, which means that then this midfielder who is also ready to race in if the ball goes in here has to be worried about this player out here.
Yeah.
So it's a good way just to mix that up, move them up and down, and see what that does to this midfielder here. If that extends it, then gives you more space to come through. So yes, the Germans do it quite narrow. Spain are a little wider and a little more comfortable with allowing them to come into the middle. And I think that's probably the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
They're very good at historically the Malachi crunch.
We got a question here from Helen from you.
Yeah.
What do you expect from today's game against the Dutch?
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game, because I think the Dutch will be playing man on man, and the Spanish will have to adjust to that. I'm not sure how they're going to exactly play, of course, Helen, but I think hopefully these young players will have found their feet at the World Cup. I think that was. They were a little bit overawed, especially when they played in India in Rockella. I don't think we saw the best of them, but I think that they will be through that. That will have been added to their knowledge, their experience. I think you'll see them come out quite well today.
Mm-hmm. No, agreed.
All right, where are we? I'll let me quickly finish New Zealand, and then we can go with more.
More questions. Perfect.
More. Yeah, that sounds good. Really sorry, I really don't understand why the video isn't working. Do we have a techo who's watching who maybe I'm sure it probably has to do with the preferences and share screen sharing or something of
Yeah,
video. I don't
yeah.
know because now it's a different program. It's not the video analyzer. It's actually just plain old. Um,
Yeah, no, it is something strange. I'll have to look into it, but I guess we make do with the board for now, and it's instructional. It's also something different to see it like this instead of the video. So
yeah, no, exactly. Okay, we talked about Spain. Let's go with New Zealand now. Now, New Zealand, uh, as an Australian, New Zealand for me is a bit like Holland and Belgium, a bit like India, Pakistan. We have the utmost respect for New Zealand, and I think since 1976 when they beat us in the final of the Olympic Games, then I think for every player, every coach since then has had a huge respect for New Zealand. So they come with quite a pedigree in regarding hockey. I think they've always seemed to have really world class strikers. They're very dangerous. You know, they still have people like Inglis and what have you. Simon Child in his earlier days played up front. Now he's playing more in the midfield. I think he was a very good example of that. Um, they have the English, Australian, South African, New Zealand fight until the very end part of it, and so you never sit on your lead against New Zealand because they will continue to keep going until the game finishes. Um, they do throw a lot of overheads to high strikers. They've done that for quite a while, and previously perhaps it was someone like Makalisi or whatever. Now it's Kane Russell. Um, they're right side dominant, so they do like the left foot plays. You know, pass down the left foot, you go down the right hand side, down your reverse. That's sort of part of their go to. Um, I think currently. Kane Russell, when he's playing at right half, I think one of the problems you have with Kane is that you don't want to give him room, because if you give him room, then he will pinpoint an overhead wherever he wishes. So then, of course, what do you do? You go and you press him and you try and put pressure on him, but he's also very skillful and drags inside, and then he can also run the ball. So he's definitely a player to watch. But then they do flat tackles, so they're indoor tackles. So against them, if we go back to my very first point about having an antidote, so here's a good example. They do indoor tackles. What is our antidote to that? Of course, is 3D. So make sure you're aware that these guys, especially in and around the circle, are going to indoor tackle. So now's the time where you bring your 3D into play.
mhm.
Uh, Again, Simon Child, great skills, pulls inside, does that a lot, comes back inside and through you. Uh, he's not as quick as what he used to be, but he still has those fantastic skills. And I think with him, if I'm playing against Simon, then I wait for him to do his tricks. He loves to make you commit, and once you commit, he then does his skills, drags around you, and pulls past you. So my advice always is to make sure that you're patient when you play against someone. Extract the skill from him and come back and take the ball off him further back down the park.
Mhm.
Uh, when they are pressing, they have their outside strikers blind press. So you've got to be aware of that, especially as a fullback. You've got the ball, they come in and you're trying to pass the ball out to the left half or the right half. There's a New Zealand striker in your face, and so just got to make sure that the midfielders are available when they're doing that. They like to crowd one side, so it's what I was saying before. So if someone crowds the ball, where's the space? Of course, it's going to be on the opposite side of the pitch. So you need to have strategies to be able to get the ball, boom, spit it out, bang, bang, go the other side, city to country, and attack down the other side. So that would be my plan against New Zealand. They love to protect the middle. Um, they will force you to their right, so they will force you to the left whenever they're pressing, but they will also protect the middle, so they're happy with you going around the outside. Sometimes we being India in my last few games against New Zealand, back three, they were very good at manipulating you around, thinking the centre forward has two. Again, I had some very good clips of them morphing from a back four to a back three, especially in the midfield.
Bring up the drawing skills. Bring up the drawing
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah, so pretty much what it ends up looking like is that they end up with a couple in here, and so 3, 5, 7, 9, and one more, yeah, and then another striker in here probably something looking like that, and what we end up with is having a striker here, you have a striker there, and then you've got a midfielder on this guy and a midfielder here. You've got a spare defender, another midfielder, and then your three defenders at the back. What ends up happening is that your centre forward gets caught because he's now got these two. Yeah, and this is, again, this is not just New Zealand, and this is what I was saying about changing tactics and whatever. So long as your team knows, okay, it's a back three, and there are a number of ways that teams get into back threes, and sometimes this is a halfback who's coming into here. Sometimes it's the opposite fullback who's just made the transition from back here. Yeah, is now into here. Now that's an easy one, but it makes it difficult for the centre forward because you have to decide if you're trying to get pressure out. It's very hard because this guy just moves. Yeah. And as soon as you go out, they move it through you and they're past us. So sometimes you have to, forego that really wish to get pressure out on the ball, depending, of course, on what the score is. Does that make sense? Is it?
Yep.
I think, yeah. So again, Spain also does that, perhaps not as much as New Zealand, but maybe that's just what depends on what you present to them that particular day as whether they move or morph into that back three a bit more. So when I talk about a back three, I don't know if I said that before, but for me that's a back three, even if you end up with your halfbacks the way.
All the way. Yeah, that way.
Yeah. So even though that sort of looks like a back five, I would call that a back three because these guys are sort of are out wide. Yeah. So giving maximum space for your midfielders in here. When we're further up the pitch, and that's what we saw with the Germans, then I would consider that more to be a sort of a back five, where you've these guys are in more of the delivery positions rather than out the width. Yep.
Exactly.
Anyway, neither here nor there. But okay, I think that's pretty much it without the video, Ernst. It's
perfect. Let's
no idea why.
Let's move to some questions here. We've got a good question already from. Let me put it like this. Make sure that you are a little bit in screen again. There we go. We've got a question here from Christopher Mills. Let me bring that one on the screen. So Christopher Mills says, okay, hello. When you are preparing a SWOT during the late stages of a tournament, how much time do you spend on the match situation? For example, being one goal up, or it's even, or numbers down, or do you push for consistency?
No, well, there's two parts of it, of course. With the swatting, then yes, then you tend to get a little bit more. Okay, well, what do they do with 10? What or what are teams doing against them when they have 10? What do they do when they're playing against a team with 10? But all of that again comes down to how much you've had a chance to practice during your last training block or whatever. How knowledgeable are your players on what they need to do? So for me, what I can control is making sure that my players know all of those different scenarios. So if we are one down, what do we do? If we are one up and we lose a player, then that's going to be different to if we are down and trying to force the game, and we lose a player, for example. So yeah, and from a swatting point of view, I think it tends to take more time of yours as the tournament moves on. You tend to be thinking, okay, yeah, well, they're throwing a lot of cards around them. We better make sure that we know exactly what the opposition is going to do when they lose the ball. Whether they're going to play, in a box, or are they going to, just play normally and play man to man? Are they going to play with a spare defender? That type of thing. Hope that answers your question.
Hope it too. If not, let us know and bring on more question coaches. Now is the time to pick the brains from this very experienced coach here. We've got a question from Sam Bartholomew here. So, have you noticed any new trends emerging other than the overhead ball into the circle?
Yeah, I look at that, and again, where the game has gone in the last 10 years and where it's going to go, I think will probably be determined by a lot of the rules. If you look back, a lot of the stuff that we've been doing in the last 10 years has been because we've been allowed to do it, or we've been pushing the envelope. And remember, we had a point there where we weren't allowed to throw the ball into the circle, and now we're back to it where we can, so long as there's space and all that sort of type of thing. Look, I think the interesting part's going to come in these next few years is what's going to happen with 3D. What are they going to allow? What they're not going to allow? And I think you saw that India played Spain, and they also played New Zealand, I think, in Bhubaneswar February time, and during that time was when I really realised how good Spain were at their 3D, and they were the ones that were really pushing the envelope from a point of view of bringing the ball, because for a while there, and I remember during the Junior World Cup that they were sort of saying, well, if you bring the ball above the knee, then it's probably going to end up being blown dangerous. Well, I think we asked for a referral on one of the balls that came up from the Spanish above the knee, but of course what he did then do is pointed it back down to our guy's feet, and it was given a corner, and we lost our referral, and so that's fine. That's at least now we know that, but that's probably so 3D. Who knows? That's going to, I think, take some extra steps, and I think obviously what comes with that is the 3D tackling. People are going to get better at it, so therefore it keeps evolving. The spinning, I think that's going to come into play. I was really pushing that heavily with the Indian guys, and some of them do it so beautifully. Just spinning around a player, and you don't even have to beat him with anything. You just spin, and the English, I think, are running they really are very, very good at that, and so it'll be interesting to watch with them. Fede made a point that the Dutch are moving back to man on man. Australia love it as well. So maybe you might see a bit more of the man on man come back into it, which of course then means that means a lot more running off the ball, and a lot more, you've got to do stuff now to try and make some more space. So
exactly.
There you go.
There we go. I hope they answered the question. If not, let us know. But Jacob from Germany, could you elaborate a bit on how the Spanish system works in possession, and maybe also in comparison to the German system?
One of the really difficult things these days is that because there is so much video, and we all see so much video, we all do so much analysis, that I think a lot of the times with the ball, a lot of teams are playing quite similarly. I know back in back in the day, in sort of '09 type thing, where Australia we were playing what a few teams call the washing machine, and that was pretty much where when you have the ball you can't be out of position, and then you see that a lot more, and certainly the English have taken that on. But I think the Spanish play a lot more, and I know the Dutch call it linie over linie. They pass forward and then they run forward. The Germans. So if you were to put it down in a nutshell, I think the Spanish system is based more on carrying the ball and skills and using some good passing options as their basis. The Germans, however, they do a passing game, and yes, of course, you've got the skills of Wellen, you've got the skills of Ruhr, but that's a lot more up in the attacking zone, and I think so. I don't know. That's probably my gut feel. They pass the ball very, very well. Doesn't mean Spain don't, but they're a bit more. They carry the ball and they move
individualistic
individually.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a follow-up question from Anthony Trotman. If I'm right, from Trinidad and Tobago, I think. Anywhere in the tropics, Anthony. But can you explain the Spanish using the midfield, the in and out and in to attack?
Yeah. So there are a couple of. I'm not sure exactly where you mean on the pitch, but I'll give an interpretation of it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I did have a. Let me just draw it first. I did have some good clips on in and out, and again, this happens when you play against the zone because you got to come into the zone and then you go back out again and then you come back in at the so you come in here to the, how are we looking? Let me just check to see where I'm at. Here we go.
Yeah, you're looking good. Yeah, a little bit higher, perfect. That's the way.
Yeah, so so there are a couple of things. One is that a lot of teams are doing this where they pass into the zone, pass into there, where they receive it there, and they pass straight back out again, and then straight back in again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now that's in and out and back in again, and again, there is a great clip where the Spanish guy just comes to the edge of the box, gets back, and then lets it go for someone coming through, and then you're going through. So that's one in and out. I mean, I'm not sure whether you meant that. I probably think more you were meaning where they come in, and again, if you're talking the Germans, they're much more compact. So their zone sort of is more there, and so you come in and then you come out. Yeah, you go down here to someone here, and then you're back in again. So yeah, that's what I think. The Spanish do automatically, but I think most teams do, especially against a zone.
Exactly.
Don't know if that is that what you were meaning? I'm sorry if it wasn't.
Let us know, Anthony, if that was what you were meaning, and let us know if that answered the question, or just give us some clarifications. We've got a question here from Christina from Argentina. Loved watching you today, learned a lot. Do you have any advice to protect the center defensive? And you should know Christina is a goalie.
So, Christina, can you just maybe add to your question? Do you mean defensive? So you mean in this area if they're defending?
I guess that's what you're meaning. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of teams are dabbling, and Belgium have done it for a while, and is just and in fact we did it with India when we had 10, where we just set a box. It's a bit hard on that when you're in the defensive zone. Where we had 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, just three simple. It was a bit more tight and compact than that. Yeah. So And yeah, the ball came in, and then they come back out again, and that was actually quite good. I noticed that New Zealand, someone else was doing that as well, where it ends up being a bit more 3-4. So this is just normal. This is when you have where you end up with 3, where the centre forward sits back a little bit, so it's a bit more of an inverted 3. Yeah. And you have three at the back, 4 in here, and then 3, and then they just swarm across depending on where the ball goes. Yeah. So that's one way. The other way is man on man, but it's also very difficult to. Let me give you another point. Is that when they have the ball there, for example, then I always try and make sure that I have the person who is the opposition player and the free defender, and so the free defender and those two should be split on the hotline, so the line to goal. So I think if you ever are wanting to protect the middle, for me, it's about protecting the hotline. So when the ball goes to here, then the free defender needs to make sure that they don't allow that easy ball through. And I think sometimes that's what happens. A team will move the ball quickly and go to here, and our free defender is still caught getting there, and that's when you become vulnerable. So I think protecting the hotline is really important, and some teams use 2 liberos, depending on whether if it's on the left, and then they take that free defender role. If it's on the right, then the other side does, or others just swarm across, and whoever's closest to the ball takes the ball, that type of thing. But yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Maybe tilt your screen a little bit so that we can see your face again as well. Yeah, there we go. Because we got a follow-up question here from Anthony, who enlightens us that he is from Barbados and not from Trinidad and Tobago. My bad, Anthony. I'm sorry. So that answered the question based on the defensive zone. So previous question from Anthony. But can you also explain how they may use the same in and out tactic in the attacking zones?
Yeah. And again, okay, so maybe we start with the basis that of the back 3, back 5, where you end up being like that, and you got there, and really you're trying to move the ball in, and then you just have your midfielders there, and for me, it's good because with a back 5, it's very hard to sort of just press this player when you've got 4 of you. It's very easy for them to split you. So once the ball comes to me here, then I need to go in to here and out to there, or into there to go around them. When you're with a back 5, that it's a little bit easier to move the ball around between you. But I think what you can do, the same thing that I talked about before, is you can come in, come back out again, and then go the other side, for example, and that's what Germany do with Svika. They come in, they come out, everyone pushes across to there, leaves Svika open for a redirect in there. So that's another way. I used to spend a lot of time with redirects. I think they are a good skill, especially closer to the circle. So you get a simple exercise is you have a deliverer, you have a redirector, and you have a striker, and they come out here, redirect to the striker in there, and has a shot. But this redirection concept, is actually quite a difficult skill when you break it down. There aren't a lot of people who are very good at it, and but I think it's a really important one. Belgium use it very nicely as well. They're often going non-ball side to someone who redirects it in.
Exactly. Okay, maybe the last question because you've got a training to go
Yeah,
to.
I do. No,
Yeah,
no, it's a
so
game.
it's a game. Even when hey, you got to be on time then. So if you allow us one final question here from Scott Sommer. So Scott's asking, how do teams defend with the overheads into the high attacking position where the defenders have to give room, otherwise giving away the penalty corner? So how would you defend that?
Yeah, and that's a really difficult one. I mean, you saw during the World Cup how costly that can be,
Hmm.
um, and again when the ball's up here, a lot of teams. Sorry,
Yep.
when people are delivering from here often, and I'm quite old school. We have a thing called a rubber band principle, and the rubber band principle is that, yeah, if you're the defender and you have to pretend you've got a rubber band around your defender, and the further the ball away is, further away that the ball is, then you can stretch that rubber band and be more like here. The problem
Hmm.
now with the overheads is that if this gap is too big and it's more than 3 meters or so, then you've really got to give them that freedom. So I think what teams do, especially against us, because we had such good, when I say us, India, when teams were playing against India, we had someone like Harmanpreet, we had Varun, some of the best pinpoint accurate passes in the world.
Hmm.
Um, then teams would start just man on manning and being very close, so that you don't give them any of those opportunities. But of course, that means then you can start to manipulate the defender, take them out of the space, and then come back into the space to receive it along the ground. So that's so yeah, I think that's probably the thing. Try and get in the landing zone. That's the other thing I try and tell players. As soon as the ball is in the air, get to where you think it's going to land, and hopefully it's far enough away that you get the nod from the umpire, because it is still one of the most difficult rules to umpire. And when you coach, as we all know, you're making those calls every day. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it's not easy.
It's not easy at all. Thanks, Graham, for sharing your
No
time.
worries.
I'm sorry
All
we
good.
couldn't solve your the
Yeah.
technical issues with the
Well, so,
videos.
yeah, it's a shame, and maybe, yeah. Anyway, it's
Uh,
that's life,
that's
and
life, and you have to. As coaches, we are very used to having to deal with the unexpected. So it's part of
you
the
almost,
job. Huh?
yeah, absolutely. No,
But I think we did
I think
well with the coaching board.
I think we've all been in going to rooms, and there's no projector, or the projector's not playing up. It's funny in India, of course. Every day there would be electrical outage or whatever, and you'd be
Yeah.
right in the middle of it, and then it's right. Okay, right, boys. We got to write what I just had up on the board. Come out and write. Where would you be? That was very
Yeah.
interesting.
No,
All right.
absolutely, absolutely.
Thanks, Ants,
Yeah,
for that. I enjoyed it. I of course love talking hockey.
and I
Yeah,
am sure I'm already getting the suggestion here that people want to see you come back very soon. So Helen says, "Thank you so much, mate. It was nice to see you." And Jacob says, "Love to see you again on here." So the people loved sharing your insights. So thanks very much for that, Graham. Have fun with the
no,
game tonight
yeah,
in
thank
Perth
you.
there. And,
Yeah,
and meanwhile, I want to say thanks for all the coaches for making the interactive session again. Good questions, love that.
yeah,
And we are back next Friday with the third part of our SWOT series with Siegfried Eichmann on three new teams. So looking forward to seeing you all again here next Friday. And enjoy the weekend and enjoy the hockey that the Pro League will be offering us. Have a good game, Graham. Bye bye.
thanks, Ants. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.